But the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
What's going on, man?
He's all fired up because KD's
back
coming.
in the studio. You like everywhere.
He's excited because KD's coming.
He's coming.
Yeah, I know.
He and D. Wood were particularly going at it, but that's the reason everyone's so excited, because Kevin Durant is here. He is in the building, and he is going to join First Take live this morning right after we wrap. Stay with us 15 minutes from now. Kevin Durant live on First Take right here on ESPN. On the morning after Game 7 of the World Series, CC Sabathia with me. Nats in Houston taking on the Astros. If you didn't see it, here were the tipping points. Zach Greinke pitching well in the 7th. 74 pitches. He has a 2-0 lead. Anthony Rendon hits a home run.
Anthony Rendon hits a home run right here. He was still pitching well, still in command of the game. 74 pitches. I'm old school. I still would have left him in.
If it was you would have stayed in. Again,
definitely.
They make the decision not to go to Garrett Cole after Greinke walks the next batter. They go instead to Will Harris, and he gives up this.
Man, good pitch, cut her down on the way, but Howie Kendrick was able to slow down the moment. Veteran hitter, been doing it a long time, and got a good pitch and hit it off the foul pole.
2-run shot. You see the celebration. It's a 3-2 Nationals lead. They never look back. Bottom of 9. It's a 6-2 game. Daniel Hudson throws the last pitch of the 2019 season. The celebration is on in a big way in D.C. as they win Game 7, 6-2. They are champions of the baseball world. And as we put a bow on this season, we look ahead to next year. And CC, I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of you here when next year begins. But let's get a couple of predictions. We start with Garrett Cole, who was obviously very frustrated not to get into the game last night. Where do you think he pitches next season?
I definitely don't think it's with the Astros. I've heard reports that he wants to go to the West Coast. For me, hopefully he ends up with the Yankees. That's just me being a fan. How great he was this year. But I just don't, the way it ended, I don't think he ends up back with the Astros.
Yes, we played you some of his comments afterwards when they asked him to go to the podium, and he said he's not even employed by the Astros anymore, so he clearly seems to be on his way out. Let's talk then about Steven Strasburg, who was the MVP of the World Series. He can opt out of his contract. What do you think happens with him?
Man, I think he's definitely got to opt out now after this World Series, after this postseason run that he had. Definitely the best pitcher, on that team this postseason, and I think he deserved to opt out and get paid for sure.
Yankees going to go after him?
I hope so. I hope they get everybody. I want the Yankees to get everybody.
They're going to get Garrett Cole and Steven Strasburg.
With Severino and Paxton. I love it.
All right. And so we've got the Yankees there. Now let's talk about a former Yankee, and that is your old manager, Joe Girardi, now the skipper with the Phillies. How do you see that marriage?
I think it's going to be good. I'm excited for Joe. Obviously, they got a lot of talent on that roster. They get some pitching. I think they'll be fine. But I think Joe's going to come in. He's a winner. He's won everywhere he's been, and, I think he's going to be good for those guys.
All right, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. CC, it's been so much fun having you here, the newest member of our team. He's been with us throughout a lot of this postseason run. Whenever you've been available, hopefully we'll keep it going. Again, congratulations to the Nationals. They win it on the road last night. To football, Jets star safety Jamal Adams said he's still fuming. The general manager, Joe Douglas, dangled him in trade talks prior to the deadline. Adams had this to say about how he felt during the trade process.
My agent called me and he told me what was going on. It definitely hurt me. You know what I mean? I hold myself at a high level. The Rams don't take calls on Aaron Donald. The Patriots don't take calls on Tom Brady. You know what I mean? That's where I hold myself in that regard.
So he said that, and then I'm sure he heard some of the reaction, so he went on Twitter and tweeted, not saying I'm the greatest ever, but you shouldn't tell a guy you were the cornerstone of the team on Friday that you won't be moved, and then negotiate terms with other teams 3 days later. But look, I'm at peace with everything. It's all love. I'm locked in. My focus is on this team and the Dolphins game Sunday. I'm past everything. Looking forward to taking the field and competing. There's two separate sides to this. There's what he said and what actually happened. I want to start with what happened. Shefty, what happened?
What happened was the Jets got some calls, and they listened. And what happened also is that on Friday, he met with the head coach of the Jets, Adam Gase, and basically was told at that point in time exactly what he repeated. Now, there's also part of this where I think in many cases, as you guys all will know, the agent is involved. And the agent's job is to manage expectations. That is always the agent's job. And sometimes maybe expectations aren't managed because we have Ryan Clark saying Jamal Adams wants to go play for Dallas. So at the same time the Jets are listening, he's contemplating the idea of going to Dallas, and everybody is trying to do what's best for them in this particular case. And that's ultimately, I believe, what happened behind the scenes.
Now, D. Wood, for those who did not see Damian Woody's Twitter yesterday, you had some pretty strong thoughts. If you could sort of sum up what those were.
Yeah, basically was, look, Jamal Adams is a great player, but on a 1-6 team, he's He's a luxury, to be honest with you. The Jets have a lot of holes, and it's the GM job, Joe Douglas, to try to fill those holes. And sometimes you have to flip good players in order to acquire assets.
Right, and that's fine. I wish you were the GM because that's what you would have said to him. What they said was you're a cornerstone. And like we always go back to the Patriots because they're a model franchise. I guarantee you that everybody on the Patriots roster knows that they are expendable. And I'm fine if you trade me, if you say that. Don't bring me in the office on Friday and say that I'm a cornerstone of this franchise and then take calls and try to shop me around the next day. That's all I'm saying. Just be upfront and honest. These players are adults. They can handle it. So why don't you, as a general manager or front office, why don't you behave in the same way?
Okay, here's all I'm saying is I think pride plays a big factor in
Absolutely.
this. Because we're talking about the business of football, and you and I both know, playing in the league a long time,
Right.
we know how the game is played.
Absolutely.
The kicker here is that the Jets got caught. Like to Wood's point, I don't mind shopping him around his business, but what it comes down to, if you're in a relationship and you want to look elsewhere, you can't be mad that Jamal Adams is now upset. Because to Neek's point, it's like if y'all are looking elsewhere and I thought y'all were committed to me, it's just like in life. Right. If you're in a relationship and you're checking direct messages, that's a problem, and that's what Joe Douglas was doing.
Yeah.
He said to Schefter's point, Joe Douglas wasn't necessarily making calls, but he was fielding calls. It's
My
the same
DMs
problem.
are off. DMs are off on my IG.
Isn't that what the GM is supposed to do?
To Schefter's point, though, he said that Jamal Adams was asking to be traded at some point earlier in the season, right? Am I mischaracterizing what you said?
No. I'm saying, and I don't know the timing on this, but we had Ryan Clark on the trade deadline show on Tuesday as this is still going, and he said, Jamal Adams told me he wants to go play for the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going to guess that didn't just happen within the last 30 or so minutes.
Is from Dallas, by the way, so that's his hometown
Born and
team.
raised.
Quick final thought, Chet. How commonplace is this? These conversations must be taking place leading up to the trade deadline about a lot of players that would surprise us, and it just doesn't become that publicly known. Usually,
and we're living in a day and age where I think more and more of this is known, and you have to understand as a team that more and more of this will be known. And so that's a part of it as well. I've never seen so many names thrown out there as being shopped, and sometimes it's real and sometimes it's not. I don't think the Jets ever wanted to trade Jamal Adams. I think they were scared of trading Jamal Adams, but they did listen. And as Mort said, the Jets are like Noah's Ark. They need two of everything these days.
All right, so we have all of that, obviously, with the hoops and the football and the World Series last night. And then UFC 244 is this Saturday night at Madison Square Garden, featuring two stars, Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz. It'll be the battle for the newly created BMF title. Let's take a look at how these fighters stack up. Masvidal has won 15 of his fights by knockout. Well, remember in his last fight, he beat Ben Askren in 5 seconds. Diaz, meanwhile, came back from a 3-year layoff in August to beat Anthony Pettis. Masvidal was here in our Seaport studios earlier this week. His last appearance here was memorable. Jorge Masvidal is back ahead of this weekend, the huge fight, UFC 244 versus Nate Diaz, Saturday night at Madison Square Garden on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. You look like you're getting ready to go here. I mean, I have very little defense for almost anything that you're considering here.
The Tiger's out the cage, man. It's ready to go. It's fight time now, so it's a little different than last time I was here. I got one thing in mind, and that's to hurt somebody. I want to taste blood, and I don't get to do that till Saturday, so the anxiety's building up, Okay. I'm ready to go.
All right, let's talk about Diaz. This fight was in jeopardy because of an atypical finding on a drug test by Diaz. He brings into question the validity of the testing. Now the fight is back on again. When all of that was going on and the fight at one point felt like it hung in the balance, what was going through your mind?
How many pizzas I was going to eat till I got over my anxiety. Because that's what happens to me when I get anxiety. I just eat. So I was about 2 larges in before the team was able to subdue me and then move on to other things. And then I found out the fight was still back on, But everything's good. The weight's good. I'm ready to go, man.
You eat when you're nervous.
Yeah, nervous, no, but anxiety. When that anxiety hits it, I just got that rage of energy, and I might not have a face to punch. I got to eat to calm down,
Okay, well, I mean, it seems like
No, I've already been fed. The Tiger's been fed. You're good, man.
Okay, good. So I can sit a little closer here. Now that it's back on, what can we expect to see Saturday night?
Pure violence, a baptism, somebody's going to sleep for a while. I know what I have to do. I know my part, my role in this world, and that's just to provide pure entertainment via violence. So that's it. If that's your cup of tea, tune in November 2nd.
I've honestly never been so